About to get down and dirty, real serious. Oh, no, I want to make this as light as possible. Just for context, I didn't send Yeti any questions. This is actually my first time sharing a live with anyone or doing anything in partnership about mental health, about self-love. So I wanted to make this really candid, like we were hanging out. Because if this goes well, this is definitely something that I want to do on the regular. I'm going to let her introduce herself. As you guys know, she is YettiSays of YettiSays.com and certified10.org. You take the mic, girl.
All right. Well, as she said, my name is Yetti, and I have been in this blogging world for about 14 years. For the first half of blogging, I did it anonymously as means for safety. My friends were on the internet. And then graduating college and trying to figure out what life is as a young adult, I decided to open up and reveal who I was. I was writing under the name, and so she writes, and so I took the mask off, and I started off kind of like with a weight loss journey, and then to rewind, I started this weight loss journey because I thought losing weight was going to make me happy because I felt like a void after graduating school, and I dropped 30 pounds, and
Ooh,
I still
I need them secrets right now.
uh, I, I've gained half of that back, but whatever. I dropped the weight and I still didn't feel happy, and then it made me realize that this is more than just a surface thing. And since then, I've been blogging about my self-love journey, which then turned into a mental health journey because um, a lot of the things that I was experiencing, I had no idea it was related to like a mental health issue. And with all of that, I founded Certified 10, which is a mental health advocacy um, organization. We are self-love pushers. We are talking about mental health from different extremes. We took a little break last year. I need to get my life together, and we're back this year, bigger, better than ever. And we're going to be tackling mental health in the media. So providing you visuals and real life stories via YouTube channel, documentary, and of course, social media. And yeah, that's me.
That's awesome. I'm so excited that you're back. Not only because I was featured on the website. um, no, it's so necessary um, for a woman of color to step up and even talk about these things, be it anonymously, be it out in the open. Like, I'm so glad that you are now. Um, for background, how the heck do Yeti and I know each other? Pretty interesting. We have a friend in common, Erica, who I don't know if she's here. Hey, my mom is on. Hey, mom. We have a friend in common who I met online also. I don't know how you know Erica.
Yeah, I met her. I met her online too.
Yeah, so who is also a very candid, um, I consider her self-love, mental health as well.
Hmm.
Mother of three.
Hmm.
Uh, she's just an amazing person, and she hit me up and she invited me to this brunch. A bunch of my friends, blogger friends, are gonna be there. So I'm thinking it's like a formal thing, and it was interesting for me because it was always difficult for me to fit in as a blogger, as a mental health blogger, because in my experience, and now it's different, but coming into the blogging world, all the mental health bloggers, all the self love bloggers were black, and and then there was me, right? Who I'm Latina. I have this like complex where I feel my Afro Latinidad very, very strong, but I can't express it because I'm too white for the black people and I'm too black for the. So then, so then I go to this event, right? And I know no one. And I walk in and everybody looks at me like, girl, you in the wrong floor. And I'm like, no, hi, Erica. And everybody's like, oh, shit.
From
And
here.
yeah, we start talking, and I'm like, wow, I belong here. Like
Yep.
this is the space. These are the spaces that I crave. These are the places that I need to be. It was so creative. It was so eye-opening. It was my first time at an event like that. I think that was my only event like that, because the other ones it was like, oh, come and speak or come and, do a podcast, whatever. But this was like a hang. And
Yep.
then Yetti opens her mouth and I'm just like crying, laughing the whole time. I commented to her earlier because I'm like, can you please imitate your dad? She was so funny and so like infectious, and still so raw about like her own mental health and her experiences. And it was just a really healing experience. That was maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah, it's about
Uh,
3 years ago.
kept in touch, right? Through
Yep.
social media. Thank God for social media.
Right.
And here we are.
I remember that because first I was just like, wow, she dressed up. Damn. And I'm in like leggings and a tank top.
Yep.
But I remember the following weekend, I stalked your I went through absolutely everything. And you mentioned in your live with your husband on Sunday, like some of the posts that like you had written. I was just like, yeah, I read that because that's how thoroughly I stalked you.
That was such a cool experience for me. And since then, I've honestly wanted to get back together with some of the girls who I still talk to, a couple of them today. Um, and life has happened. Like some of us have had babies, and some of us are pregnant now, or moved and switched careers or whatever.
Right.
But that was just really cool. It felt really welcoming, and since then, I've wanted to make it a point to create welcoming spaces for people who suffer from mental illness, from people who lack self love or who are just going through anything. And yeah, I also took a little hiatus, relaunched in December, and here we are.
Here we are.
Are. So I don't really have like questions. I don't know if you wanted to start out with something. Um, I am coming out with my mental health story video on Friday, so I'm not going to give too much of myself, but we would love to hear yours. Where did your journey um, healing your mental health? I guess we're all always healing.
Right. It's a never-ending journey.
We're all always healing, whether you're diagnosed with something or not. We're all always trying to stay positive. So go ahead, girl.
So I was born in London. My parents are Nigerian. Um, my dad, who I make fun of all the time, and I probably will do so on the call, he is an amazing individual and he sacrificed so much and moved us from London to America so we could have a better life. But in that process of moving, that transition a child goes through, um, moving from London, which is very diverse, and granted the US is diverse too, but we moved to Marlborough, Massachusetts, which I had never heard of. When I heard of America, the only thing I knew of was New York because of Coming to America. That was the only, that was the only thing that I knew of like in the US. So my dad's like, I'm moving to Boston. I was just like, where is that? Like, what's that on the map? We get there and he enrolled me in private school and I was the only black person. And it was a shock for me. I was the only black person. I had a British accent, and I was new and I was different. Um, so I think that was the first time I had actually experienced like anxiety, but I didn't know what it was. A couple of years later, I would just call it as my little freakouts. Um, I don't know why I labeled it that, but that's what I labeled it as. And also moving from London to the US, my dad moved 2 years before we did, and I was a daddy's girl. And when we were reunited, we did not have that bond anymore. Um, and a lot of my high school experience was spent trying to please him and try and recover that daddy's girl bond that we had. And my dad is a typical Nigerian, like kids are to be seen and not heard type of situation. And with this fight for perfectionism And in an African household, like if it's not an A, it's like, what are you doing? Like, what are we sending you to school for?
Right.
It's not like, hey, dad, can I go out to play? It's like, play what? Go go face your book. Will your book put you will play put you through college?
Yo,
Go look and face your book. So my whole thing was like, okay, if I get these good grades and if I, do these things that dad wants me to do, he's going to be proud of me. He's going to be happy. And he didn't come from a generation where you have to provide positive feedback as much as you criticize. And all I ever heard was a criticism. And it took it made me want to like punish myself. So I started self-mutilating at the age of 14. I self-mutilated up until I think age 20, when I was in a relationship with this man I was madly in love with, and living with two of my closest friends, and they hid everything in the house. Like, you have to stop this behavior.
because they knew what was going on.
Yeah, they knew what was going on. And at that point, I think around 16, the school figured out what I was doing. The guidance counselor brought me in. She asked me about it. I lied and said, like, my best friend's cats used to scratch my arms, but clearly, like, they don't look like scratches that could come from a cat. They called home. My mom asked me about it, but she's very much kind of like I was actually talking to her younger sister today. She kind of referred to her as an ostrich. She like keeps her head in the sand, like in like avoiding that these things are like real life. So it wasn't until I got into an argument with my dad my senior year, and my senior year is probably my senior and freshman year of college were my rebellious years. My senior year, it was just like, okay, well, I can't please dad. Like, I'm a straight A student. I do all of this. I'm president of all these organizations. He's still not happy with what I am doing. I'm going to leave. So I'm like, I'm going to apply to all these schools that are nowhere near New England, nowhere near Massachusetts, and just typical African controlling behavior. He spazzed, and him spazzing led me to take a whole bunch of I don't even know what the medication was. I just know that they were in the prescription bottles, and I took them all.
Oh,
And I
Lord.
put myself in the hospital. Um, it was probably the scariest couple days of my life, drinking black liquid to detox what was in there. Them running tests, like if certain levels weren't low enough, they're gonna have to go in and pump my stomach. And even with that, my parents didn't see it as like she's trying to kill herself. They saw it as, oh, she wanted to try and get attention.
Yeah.
So they honestly didn't come to terms with my mental health until much later on. And I was forced into therapy. I did therapy for a little while, and then I went into college. And my dad didn't believe in therapy. He still doesn't really believe in therapy because mental illness and like depression, because they were just like, your daughter is depressed.
Yeah.
That can't happen to African kids, that can't happen to non-Americans. Like, that's not what happens to.
American thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's a westernized thing. Like, we don't do that. Like, we don't have those type of crazy problems. And it wasn't until, honestly, me moving to New York, and I moved to New York for all the wrong fucking reasons. One, I thought I could save my relationship, so I moved to New York. Two, I had recently been sexually assaulted in Rhode Island, and I couldn't stand to be in the state where he got to walk around free. And so I literally visited New York, signed a lease, and 2 weeks later moved. Didn't tell anyone. And it was probably the worst thing I could ever do, because what I thought were freakouts were actually anxiety. And then I had a panic attack when someone accidentally brushed the back of my leg on the train. And I feel like that's kind of where like I hit rock bottom. I have never wanted to disappear from the earth as much as I did that first year of moving to New York. And it was around a year anniversary since I moved. Like, I sat down with my parents, because I need to sit down with them because a way of healing for me is writing. And at that time, I was blogging and I needed to write about the rape. I had to do it because I forgot what had happened within Black Twitter, but it turned into a talk of like, well, what was she wearing?
Yeah. Which is still the conversation, sadly.
It's still the conversation. And then I was seeing people that like I'm friends with, like my male best friends, commenting on it. Granted, they had no idea what had happened to me. And I had to write about it. Just like, you're saying these things, like you don't know the women that like that have been assaulted, like that have experienced these things. But before I put that on the website, I need to talk to my parents. Everything that I unleash on my website, I have a talk with them beforehand.
Did they know that you were writing to release?
No, no. I don't think I don't. My dad still doesn't read my blog. He knows that I have it and he
Mhm.
supports it, but he doesn't read it. My mom didn't start reading my blog until then, and I think she did it out of curiosity, also because she knew something was wrong when I moved to New York. Like, why would your child just up and leave everything and move to a different state? And I'm not the one to like run to my parents and tell them like something is wrong, because my dad has very much drilled it into me like you need to be independent. And when I left that house, I did not live at home. After I graduated high school, I knew it wasn't coming back home, and that's kind of where I let go of like the strings and the ties of like kind of relying on your parents. And also, who wants to tell their parents like this type of thing has like happened to you?
Right. Or anyone.
And or anyone, exactly. So my mom started to read my blog at that time because it's her way of figuring out like what's happening with me. Because chances are I'm gonna hint to it on the blog before I ever tell
Girl,
her.
if I knew how many times that happened to me, not necessarily with my family, but with my friends, and how it got me in trouble a couple of times in college. Continue. And
um, but yeah, after that first year in New York, I decided like I need to go into therapy. I need to be consistent about it. I need to be intentional about healing and not. It's just like it's so hard to explain, but like when you're in such like a dark place, it actually does like physically hurt. Like it physically hurts. You feel so drained. Your heart, your chest, everything just aches. It takes a toll on like your physical body. And I just got tired of just not being happy. Like I used to dread summer because that meant everyone else loved summer. So everyone was happy, and it's just like I don't want it to be summer because I can't be happy with them. What
yeah,
kind of fuck shit is that?
yeah. No, I totally, totally, totally understand.
And so from there I became intentional. My first therapist was trash in New York. We won't get into that. You have to date your therapist. You need to
Thank
date
you.
them.
Thank you.
You need to find one that you like and that makes you feel comfortable and gives you homework and is proactive about your healing, just as proactive as you are. So I found one. She was into unconventional things such as like self hypnosis, EMDR. I can't remember what that stands for.
Did you have a specific type of therapist, or was it just a general psychologist?
She was just a regular therapist, not a psychologist. I saw one a little later on in 2015 when I decided to get on anti-anxiety meds. Um, but my general experience with some psychologists and psychiatrists, the ones that are like a doctor level, they're not as thorough as the ones that I guess went through and got their masters. Because now that you're a doctor, you can prescribe medication or things at that level. That's as deep as they want to go, and that's usually their first option. That really upsets me.
Yeah, that's the reason why, and I touch on this in my video. Um, I was also prescribed anti-anxiety medication, and I chose not to take it because I was kind of I also didn't date my therapist. I was kind of like, this is my therapist and that's it, and I'm gonna make this relationship work.
Yeah.
That was also part of my character at the time. I won't get into it. You guys have to watch it. Um, but I didn't date around. I stuck with her, and I was like, she's not. No, I'm not. I don't. I refuse these pills. I'm not gonna take pills. For some reason, I was really against pills, and there's nothing wrong with pills. I was like, I'm gonna make this work. And I felt like at some point we stopped building that relationship that I craved. Like, so for me, it was on a spectrum. There was all these stigmas, cultural stigmas,
Hmm.
uh, and I guess African households are very much like Caribbean households because
Yes, they
uh,
are.
my family was never against therapy, but outside of my house, my Cuban culture, my Dominican culture, it was just like it's very taboo. So to know that somebody is going through therapy, it was just like, oh shit, what are they going through? You know? And it becomes like a little gossip and whatever. So I didn't tell anyone. My parents knew, but nobody else knew. So when I finally went to therapy, I'm like, no, I'm gonna stick with her. This is what's gonna work, and this is what's gonna work. And
Right.
no, I'm not gonna take the pills. We're gonna get deeper and deeper, and eventually she just stopped getting as deep, and we stopped building the relationship that I craved. I wanted that like, oh, I can just be down my therapist at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm having a panic attack relationship, and I didn't have that with her. So I ended up leaving therapy because of that. So I totally, totally understand.
That was pretty much exactly the relationship I had with the very first one. And she was in Queens. And you know how it is in New York. Most of your doctors work in multiple different facilities. So if they're booked up in one facility, they'll offer you a place in the other. And I was just like, she's a black therapist. Like that's unheard of for me. And she was out in Queens. Well, I live in Harlem, right?
Mm-hmm. Wow,
And
that's a troop.
that is a troop. And for a good like 6 months, I stuck with her. But and what broke the camel's back was that she was like, okay, medication, medication, medication. Like you can see my partner across the hall. We'll get you in for an appointment in 2 months' time because that's his availability. But I'm trooping from Harlem at like six something in the morning to come to you, and I don't feel at peace when I leave. Like I don't have like a glimpse of hope when I leave. Something is wrong here. And my at that point in time, I was just like, well, no, this is how therapy is. Like, this is what you have to do. Because the first time I went to therapy after my suicidal attempt, I didn't have a choice. Like, it was found for me. If my dad had his way, I would have been going to our pastor, who would
Yeah,
probably trying to beat me with the Bible.
right. Because that's a normal thought. You know, if you're going through a mental issue, church can fix it, or whatever.
Right. And in some aspects, like you, sometimes turning to a higher power does help you. But sometimes you just need the professional that understands how the mind works, or that outsider that you can speak to that's not biased. But this lady, she was just like, okay, what time is available for you? And I was just like, anytime, like after work. My appointments with her were at 7:30. So you have a recently raped individual leaving her house in the middle of the night of fucking Harlem who is petrified to get on the train because it's
Right.
more convenient for you for 7:30, and you asked me what's available, like what works for you, and you gave me the complete opposite. It's like when you sit down and like process it, you're just like, wow.
More reason to date your therapist and hop around. I touched on this in my video, but I want to mention it here because it's important. Um, you can't Google, like, just to use your situation for an example. You can't get on Google and be like, therapist who has been raped before and is black and is a female and likes
Right.
this, that, third, and likes eating apple pie. Like, no, that's not how it works. The Oh, seriously, 'cause I wanted that too. I wanted a female therapist. I wanted somebody close to my age range. I wanted a Latina. I wanted somebody that had been through depression and anxiety, somebody that has been heartbroken.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, My mom's like, it was business for the therapist. Yeah, it was just money.
I
So
saw that, and
it's
yes,
we
I
already.
agree.
By the way, guys, you guys, thank you for the support and for saying this is
I
everything.
know,
So
and I'm going through the comments. I see you, Jasmine.
this is a important conversation to have, and this is why we're having it.
Right.
But I regret not like hopping around, and I stayed with her for a while. I think I was in therapy for 6 months straight, multiple times a week, like 2 or 3 times a week, until I couldn't afford her anymore because I eventually lost my job because I was depressed. Um,
Right.
yeah, date your therapist. It's very important.
It
Um,
is.
how did you do you feel like although you had certain weird situations with your therapist that at least uh, he or she afforded you the tools that you needed to heal on your own, or like what tools and what things did you do to heal on your own?
So the first one, no, not really. She did cognitive behavioral therapy. Did cognitive behavioral therapy. Um, while I was there, she'd get me to think about some of my actions and kind of step me through what I should be doing, but it didn't really digest. It wasn't until the last therapist that I had in New York, and I unfortunately had to give her up because I moved to Connecticut, and she's not licensed in Connecticut, so it's technically illegal for her to continue to speak to me in terms of that manner. But she definitely did. She gave me homework. My therapist now, I just got back into therapy 3 weeks ago. She is a black lady and she is hardcore, and she gives you homework, and it's like you're going to get a grade. It's legit homework, and it's probably the best thing ever. Um, but back to my other therapist. Her name is Ro. If you are in New York, her name is Ro Piccoli. She is amazing. She is white, but she's amazing. Um, she would she taught me how to practice self-hypnosis. And all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. You only go as deep as you allow yourself to. But she taught me how to do that because I was having a panic attack literally maybe once every 2 weeks, and I needed to figure out ways to combat it before it will get to a place where it's uncontrollable. I can't tell you how many times I have been carried off of a train car. It's so embarrassing. And then they lay you on that dirty platform floor. Don't get me started. But that was one of the first things that she taught me. And then after that, it was like little tips and tricks to keep me present in the now. So, like, with anxiety, granted, I do suffer from depression from time to time. It's nowhere near as bad as it was before. My thing right now is I have like uncontrollable anxiety. I thought it was social anxiety. It is just I am an anxious, tightly wound person. Like that is me to to the core. It's so ridiculous, but it also a lot of it stems from we can't focus on like what is actually happening. We're too busy putting plans A, B, C through Z together for something that the probability of it happening is like 0 to none. We're
Mm-hmm.
just so far off into the future planning shit out that we can't even acknowledge our now. And so she taught me different tricks to keep myself present. My biggest trigger point is the train. One of the reasons why I left New York is because you can't get anywhere without the train. Thank God for Uber my last year, but the amount of money I spent on Uber, it was just like it's not worth it. So one of the tricks that she taught me was to just take note of everything that's happening on the train car. So like that guy is wearing an NYU shirt. Her hair is purple. We're at 42nd Street. Things of that nature just to keep my mind focused from whatever my anxious thoughts are trying to push forward to me.
Now,
Um,
so much sense and something that I've never tried before, but I will try now. I don't necessarily get anxiety on the train, but I do get anxiety in certain situations, and it's really important to fight or flight, which is the tool that most people
yes.
learn. Um, and I'm not going to tell you that I've always done it. I'm not going to tell you that it always works for me, but that is a really easy way to ground yourself in a situation like that.
No, most definitely. But a lot of these things
Uh-oh, yeah, he's frozen. There you are.
Sorry, my phone starting to die. My best friend is in this chat, so now I'm nervous.
My mom is in this chat. Okay.
Um, a lot of the tips and tricks that she taught me did not stick until I tried the anxiety medication. I did do a round of Lexapro, 2015. Um, it started off with seasonal depression, and then it just spiraled out of control with just certain things that were happening. I had a death in the family. My parents' house was broken into and robbed, and I don't know, we get to a certain point in life, like when you're growing up, that fear and nurture relationship that you have with your parents swap. So they're no longer like fearful for you, you're fearful for them. Like they're getting older and you want to make sure that everything is okay, you want to take care of them. And seeing your mom on her hands and knees constantly scrubbing the floor because someone has broken into her home, her safe haven, every time I would Skype her, she was on her hands and knees scrubbing because her house felt dirty to her, that someone has like infiltrated her peace. It drove me batshit crazy. There in Massachusetts, I'm in New York. There's only so much that I could do. And then my aunt um, lost her child. She gave birth, and he passed away. And she fought long and hard to have that baby. And it just, I was in such a terrible place. Like I could not get my life together. And after using 7 PTO days and my boss being like, hello, are you going to come in? And losing your job in New York with New York rent is no joke. I was just like, I can't. I'm going to try the medication. Um, it worked. Medication does work. Whatever they put in it, it's guaranteed to work. And it did. It did work for the time being that I was on it. It slowed my thoughts down. And for the first time, I think in a very long time, I knew what it felt like to be happy, genuinely happy and content. Um,
That because you were happy, or happy and content because you were calm and not anxious?
exactly. I knew what calm felt like. I remember being in Party City, and thanks to these pills, I decided to go through with my very first Certified 10 event. And I remember just like stopping. I was dancing to the Britney Spears that they were playing. They played the most random music in that Party City on 125th Street. It's just like anytime I go in there, it's random. And I stopped to think to myself while like looking at cutlery, plastic cutlery, like, I don't have any thoughts in my mind. Like my mind is not racing. Like I feel at peace. And I was just like, oh my God, this is fucking amazing. I am not coming off of this medication.
Did you
And
eventually?
then I came off. First of all, I went off cold turkey. Don't ever, ever do that. Don't do that. It's very, very bad for you.
Yeah, because it's
Um,
chemical imbalance. So don't
yep.
make.
I have vertigo. Vertigo on the train. Jesus Christ. I lost my balance. Like I couldn't like walk. I couldn't go to the gym or anything. It was very bad. Not to mention it does this fuzziness to your brain. So you would be in mid conversation and forget what you're talking about.
For me,
Just
that's just mom brain for me. Um, if we
no,
have
mom brain is real. Dealing with
um,
my friends that have babies, mom brain is definitely real.
somebody said the headache's the lack of focus.
No, that's exactly what it is. Like your body goes through it. I actually did this again in December. Bad. Don't just come off. And I should know better. But being on medication, certain medications, what I started to notice was that it was making me not necessarily numb,
Mm-hmm.
but I lost like my sense of urgency.
Mm-hmm.
So I was enjoying the calmness, but then the calmness turned into kind of like indifference. My boss would be like, hey, you missed a deadline from 2 weeks ago. And I'll just be like, it'll get done. Like things that people should panic about, I wasn't panicking about. And that started to scare me, not to mention when you're on certain medications, in order for it to, well, certain anxiety and depression medications are SSRIs. So they're meant to increase your serotonin levels. Now, in order to increase your serotonin levels, you need to take that energy from somewhere else in your body.
Okay.
So what it
That
did for me,
makes a lot of sense.
say that again?
I've never heard it. I've never heard it be described that way. That makes a lot of sense.
I was rapidly gaining weight, and my nurse practitioner is actually the one that prescribed it to me. She's telling me it's in my mind. I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, I get it. I'm very dramatic. I'm a very dramatic person. And I live for extremes. But this one definitely was not in my head. In the course of being on the medications, I think for 5 months, I gained close to 20 pounds. And I'm 5'3". And that is absolutely a lot. And I eventually went and had my blood work done. I went to an endocrinologist, and he was just like, yeah, your leptin levels, what you use to burn fat, is non-existent.
Wow.
But it's non-existent because what is creating my serotonin is on high.
Gotcha.
So it has to take away from a different hormone process within your body. So it does work, but
There
there
are.
there are side effects.
Is that the reason that you stopped taking medication?
I stopped because I felt numb, and then this is just a thing, and I still battle with this now. I did a little stint of anxiety medication last summer, and I came off of it also again. Um, in my mind, it's just like you want to be able to do this on your own. Like you want to be able to get there on your own. You don't want to be dependent on medication to do it. Nothing, I'm not saying anything is wrong with medication, but to me, I couldn't shake the imposter feeling. Like this is fraudulent happy. This is not real happy because I wasn't able to produce it on my own. And talking to my therapist, she's like, it technically isn't fraudulent happy. She's like, your body just sometimes can't get there on its own. Um, but in efforts of not putting a whole bunch of stuff in my body, like I'm on birth control, I have PCOS, and I constantly feel like my body is a science experiment trying to figure out how to make sure my cysts don't get bigger because I want to have some beautiful brown babies someday. So my whole thing was just like, okay, something has to give. And I went on vacation and accidentally forgot to pack my anxiety medication. And so I detoxed, and I detoxed in the best way possible because I was in Cabo, I was in the sun, I had vitamin D. It was okay.
It's for your birthday.
Yeah, for my birthday.
Wow.
Um, so yeah.
So you had no choice but to be happy there. Like, so I guess everything happens. I believe everything happens for a reason. So.
No, it does.
So you haven't taken it since then.
Nope.
Awesome. I am also not against medication, but for me, I like to describe it as it was more of a want than a need. I have severe panic attacks, and my mom can attest to this. My husband can attest to this. Um, but I don't have them as often. I have, instead of like 2 or 3 bad ones a month, I have one terrible one a month. Like terrible to the point that I fall over, I hit myself, and I bled out, I've gotten concussions, I lose my sight, my breath, feeling in my body, I numb completely. So I have like one of those a month. And to me, not that I'm sadistic or anything, but to me, that wasn't sufficient enough reason for me to take medication. So I'm a researcher. It's what I do. I work in community by day. So I'm like, I'm going to find a natural way to do this. I need to do this on my own. Yes, I feel weak, but I don't want to be. So I started researching about what hormones the body produces on its own, what chemicals the body produces on its own, in any way that I can enhance that. So I started taking GABA by the body. This is for anxiety. I'm not. I was diagnosed with depression in college. I like to call it situational depression. Depression does run in my family, but it only like activates when through PTSD or some type of trauma or something.
Right. Agreed. Same here.
Anxiety for me is constant. Um, So I did my research and I found out that GABA is produced by the body naturally. Um, you can take this vitamin or whatever when you're feeling like you're super anxious or you're about to have a panic attack. And so I tried it. I was like, what do I have to lose? You know? Um, I took something else before that that was recommended by my friend who is a counselor at a school. I don't remember the name right now, but I will. And then I tried GABA. The other one, I forget the name, something with an S. Um,
St.
when,
John's Worts.
no, something else, something shorter. But when I took it, I felt cool. I felt good. That was more for my depression. But when I got off of it, I felt like I was dependent on it. I was like, damn, even vitamins do this? Like, what the fuck? So I ignored that and started doing other things for my depression. Cliche things like Bikram yoga and like start
Hmm.
focusing on myself or whatever, or just let it flow through me. But for my anxiety that was way more severe, I started taking GABA. Um, it's GABA. Just in case you guys want to look that up. You guys are getting an inside scoop because I mentioned this on my video and I'm talking about it now. Um, GABA to this day, I actually started taking it again recently. Um, Due to my separation anxiety with my daughter and going back to work and everything. But
Hmm.
that really helped me. And it was to the point that I kept it in my purse. Um,
Oh,
I
awesome.
I suffer from generalized anxiety disorder, so it's just like an everyday thing. Sometimes it's always there, but it's either like a 10 or a 95 or 105
Hmm.
when it's at its worst. So my waving and he's in the same room with me. Um, um, So yeah, so I started taking that, and then literally when I used to feel when I still feel like really really bad, I take one, and in 10 minutes my body starts to feel tingly, and that lets me know that all right, it's working. Like you need to chill, you need to breathe. You're gonna be fine. Like you took this pill, you might as well do your part. My mom, who I don't know if she's still in the chat, used to say something to me during my worst moments that used to piss me off, but now I say it to myself because it makes total sense. She would say in Spanish, "Tiene que ponerle de tu parte." You have to do your part. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what the
Does it, what does this mean?
like
Yeah.
this is me. This is me. And I would define myself by my mental illness. I'm like checking the time. We have 12 minutes. Um, I was like, this is me. I am my depression. I am my anxiety. What do you mean ponerle mi parte? Like this is who I am. And then as I got older and my illnesses got worse, and I eventually stopped therapy and I started to self-treat and do other things to help myself. I'm like, you know what? That makes total fucking sense. If I'm taking these pills and going to yoga and I'm spending money and I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I'm writing on my blog and
Hmm.
putting in all this work, I was like, I really need to tell my mind. I control my mind. You know, that's really controversial in the way that I say it because it is a chemical imbalance and you cannot just turn it off and turn it on.
Right.
But you can make the decision to help yourself. You
You
can
can.
make to pick up the phone and make that therapy appointment. You can make the decision to breathe. Sometimes I'm so angry at my anxiety that I just choose not to. And I just choose to, and it sounds so stupid now that I'm
No,
saying
it
it.
doesn't, because I know exactly what you're talking
You know
about.
what I'm saying? Like sometimes I'm like, I feel it coming. I feel it coming. And you know what? I'm just going to smack the fuck out of somebody. And that's what's going to happen. And it's happened before. It happens all the time. And it's just like, I'm not doing my part, you know? This
No.
is me having moments as I talk to you guys. Because I know.
No, that has been my thing. So at the end of every year, I go to London. I'm from London, so I go back to visit like my grandmother, all my aunts and my cousins, my family. They all live over there. And in the past years that I've been going, it's kind of been like my escape. And then when I come back, it's just like, oh, I'm back here without my family. My little vacation from reality
Yeah.
is gone. And I told myself, like, I was on my flight back home and a whole bunch of family shit had happened prior to me going to London. So I couldn't even really enjoy or have that little vacation. I told myself I'm going to get into a routine. I'm going to get into a routine that's going to stop me from doing this thing where I come home from work and get in my bed. or get on the couch and I vegetate. Last year, granted, like I made progress in terms of like my career. I left New York. I'm with my love, but I was not happy. And I spent a good amount of last year blaming that on other people. And it was just like, no, you know damn well after God knows how many years of therapy that you can control this or play a part in this. I stopped blogging. I shut down Certified 10, things of that
Same,
nature.
girl, same. Hello. People were like,
And
where's the mode? And I'm like, it's coming, it's coming. And I'm like,
it is, you
suffering
would say that.
and having babies and getting married. And I'm just like, yo, they have no idea that I'm like suffering right now.
Right, exactly. And so I put myself into a routine that like every morning it sucks, but I take myself to the gym because I know after the gym I feel good and I feel empowered and I feel strong. Granted, I also have a weird obsession with my weight, but that's for another live. But being in that routine where after I leave work, I come home and I work on my creativity because my creativity makes me feel like I have power, and writing makes me feel like I'm healing. Forcing myself into that routine has definitely done a 180 on my mood and has definitely done wonders for the different relationships that I have because I'm no longer sulking. And I spent all last year sulking when I had the power within myself to do it. So I definitely understand what you're saying.
Yes, somebody gets me. No, I know you all understand. I get messages on the daily from like people who are either going through something that they need help with, and I am by no means a doctor. I'm by no means a mental health professional. I'm a person just like you, just like Yetti is a person just like you. Um, and we're both battling. I don't like to use the word suffering too much. Battling mental illness. Or I get messages of gratitude. So I'm so glad that we're having this conversation. I don't want to be cut off by Instagram, so we have less than 10 minutes. What was the other question? Do you guys have any questions? I'm like reading the comments. You guys are all supportive.
They're super supportive.
GABA, GABA. Let's see. Resources to find therapists. I also touched on that in my video, but yes, ZocDoc.com is where I found my therapist.
Yep.
Psychology Today.
That's
Ada,
where
my friend All Things Ada, who also has her therapy video out that you need to go watch. So click on her. My mom is in there saying support is so important. Yes, mom, I thank you. I actually went through a very interesting journey with my mom on my mental health journey with my mom. Part of my mental health healing was bringing my mom into therapy and hashing things out with her. Yes, I'm airing out my laundry, and nobody knows that, but I'm saying it here for the first time. And
oh, okay.
that was major. My mom has always been supportive of me. But we did have our tit for tats when it came to like my panic attacks as a teenager. It was more, I always got from my parents like, oh, you're just doing it for attention, like, you know, da 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 da. And it's just like, and that's what I believed myself too, because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know that was a panic attack.
Right.
Yeah, but then things changed. I moved away to college. I came back home. Things got worse. I ended up going to therapy. And then it was just like, do you want to bring your mom to therapy question? That was just like, holy fuck.
Like, would she do this?
Yes. My mom's like, because of the taboo. And I'm so grateful that a Cuban-born woman is admitting that there is taboo when it comes and that was one of the most painful sessions ever. We sat there for an hour, just like cried and screamed. She's like, hell yes. And cried and cried and screamed at each other and got down to the reason and the complexes that I had and that were born from my amazing childhood. For some reason, these complexes came and I carry them with me. I call experiences and like complexes that we have as adults as backpacks that we carry with them, and they're either really really heavy or they're really really light.
Right.
And for some reason I carried this around with me, and it wasn't until then that I realized I even had this backpack. And I started to unpack and sometimes I still have the backpack, we all have it, Sometimes it gets really heavy and sometimes it gets really light. But that was a moment of acknowledgement for me, and it was a moment of acknowledgement for her. And I'm just so grateful because I know that not everybody has that experience with their parent, with their significant other, with their
Right.
family, friends. My mom actually, I'm touching on my mom a lot, but I feel very honored that she's here. Um, she asked what your relationship with your father is today.
Me and my father is my biggest fan. I talk to him, well, right now we're taking a little breaksies because we have a little family situation, but
Happy
I
for her.
know that that will be resolved. But like I said, he's an incredible man that took so many risks with our family to make sure that we had the best of everything, and I can appreciate that now. And he now understands, like, you know, his daughter has anxiety, that she has experienced these certain things, and I know he's still wrapping his mind around some of the aspects. We don't ever talk about my sexual assault ever, and I understand because he can't handle that, and I'm okay with that. Um, but my very last Certified 10 event, he came to, and he sat through and he cried with me, and that's how I knew, like, okay, he gets it.
Yeah. That's funny that you say that because I did my first speaking gig. Checking time. I don't want to be cut off. We got cut off on Sunday. I'm so upset because now I have this video that I'm about to put the video on YouTube, guys. I know you guys have been waiting for it. And be like, no, we have 40 seconds. I don't want to end that way. I'm open to coming back. Look, we have a minute and 51 seconds. That's some bullshit. Instagram. I don't have anything to do, but if you want to come back and answer questions or whatever, at least if it's for
I
10
am here whenever.
So, guys, give me a heart if you guys will come back because I'm not done yet. This month is short, and this is the last couple of days of my week. So, let's come back when this shit kicks us off.
My boyfriend just rushed to his phone to give us a heart.
He's so sweet. We gotta get together.
Oh, there's a whole bunch of hearts. Okay.
What was I saying? Oh, so I was asked actually to speak at a mental health event in Washington Heights, and that was a huge deal for me because it was been my first time speaking about this publicly, and I invited my parents. This was after I wrote a very interesting piece, which is actually, if you go to the link in my bio and you scroll all the way to the bottom, it's there. It's called Mental Health and Latinidad, I believe. And I kind of like ousted my family, and I made it seem like they were the reason why I have mental health issues, and that wasn't the reason. So we had this really, really big fight, and they ended up coming to the event. And it wasn't until then that I realized, okay, they're on my side. They are not against me. They're not my enemy. They're actually not the reason, but I have mental health issues. They're part of my story, but they're not. And that's just such a great feeling.
It is.
I'm probably going to X us out and bring us back. Can y'all come back? Because we got some questions to answer. We're going to lose them once I exit out.
Okay.
But guys, come back, ask your questions because we got the answers. Okay, 5 seconds. Ready?
All right.
Okay, questions. Let's see.
What advice can you give to those people with no family support or limited friends support? Number one, so this is kind of how I felt back in high school, and that's why I made friends with people on the internet. So you feel like you don't have the support surrounding you in real life, I would join communities. I think the number of hashtags that are available on social media, I would dig through them and make yourself like seen. And if anything, my name is YettiSays. You can come in my DMs and I will support you. There's also look up Redefine Enough. She has, yep. She has podcasts, and she also holds different retreats around the US. So I would definitely check that out too. And there's a whole bunch of other resources that I know Mel has. But you're never ever alone. It might be different receiving support via, your phone and the internet, and not in real life, but you can have support.
Right. It's funny that you touch on that and like getting digital support. It is weird. I know I live on my phone all day because I have you guys here. And I'm trying to like actively build this community, but I've gotten closer to some of you guys than I am to my actual friends, and it's amazing. There's definitely digital support groups. You guys, there's Facebook has a lot. Like I think that's like the most I've seen. You just have to be really good with your searches. There's depending on where you live, there's resources there. I forget the name of the web that has it has like mental health alliances in every state that you can look up.
Is it
It's mental
not?
health.
Yeah.
I'll put it in my stories when I figure it out. I'm not sure if they have support groups there, but they definitely help with therapy. Um, yeah, just go out and do your research. I noticed that yes, we are here to answer your questions, and I love you guys to death. But pick up your fingers and Google it first. Like, you probably get your answer on Google quicker than I can get to you. I'm not the most popular person on the internet, but I do get a zillion DMs a day. I'm a working mother and a wife, so the I get to you guys the fastest I can, and I do answer every single person. Um, um, but you can probably get your answer quicker if you do your research. Um, but yes, if you don't have friends or support, there's definitely support out there. You're absolutely not alone. Look at this. Look, Yetti's in Connecticut. I'm in New York. Situation right now, and we're like, probably changing a life or two. If I don't know about you, but me personally, if I shift one person's mindset, then I've done my job.
Yep. Agreed.
So
Agreed.
let me see if there's any more questions. We got a lot of people here. Y'all can work tomorrow. That was one. Let's see. My mom said, "Did you get a different type of therapy after the sexual assault?"
Um, no. So, well, I avoided therapy because I avoided believing that I was raped to begin with. In fact, like I think when I first told my best friend Fidelis, who's in this chat, she can attest to it. We were in Miami. I think we were like 2 months out from my assault. We were in Miami during Hip Hop Weekend, which is probably the worst place you could be after being assaulted because those men are aggressive as all hell. Um, and I told her I was just like rubbed up on or touched up on. I don't think we actually had that conversation that was truly rape until she read my post.
Okay.
But I avoided it. And I did go to therapy, but my therapist that I found, she got me together for everything, not just like the sexual assault. She helped me with my depression. I was dealing with a really disgusting breakup and I could not let it go. Partially because you can close the microwave, babe. Partially because you subconsciously date men that are kind of like your father,
Girl.
and you do, and he didn't have all the wonderful qualities my dad has, but he definitely had the negative ones, and it was kind of like a sick dependency. But she got my life together with all of that.
Awesome. That's awesome. I think somebody touched on money in the other video, and not having insurance and wanting to get therapy. I did therapy without insurance. I was over the 26 bracket, and I couldn't be under my mom's insurance. At some point, I was even unemployed. Um, I asked my therapist to put me on a sliding scale to get me set. Um, People are trained professionals, so I find it very rare. I mean, I don't know what anybody else's experience have been like. Yes, it's a business, but these people are here to help you. I'm sure, they do this for a reason. They got these doctorates and these degrees for a reason. I'm sure if you tell them, which this is what I did, I'm fucking broke and I need help, they'll put you on a sliding scale, and I'm agreeing in the chat. Um, uh, Driving NYC is an initiative in New York that provides free mental health services. Yes. Um, do your research, guys, and definitely ask. There's somebody that you really want to see for some reason. I don't know about you guys. I'm a review freak, so I booked my therapist purely off of reviews from ZocDoc.com. Um, if you really want to see someone, just ask and be honest with them. And ask them what they're willing to charge you. Now, I don't know if anybody's gonna ask this, but I just touched on honesty. Don't lie to your therapist.
Don't. It's such a disservice to yourself. Just don't do it.
It's a disservice to yourself in multiple ways. One, what kind of help are you getting if you're lying to your therapist? Two, you're wasting your own money. You're wasting your own cash. Your coins in the garbage. So don't lie to your therapist. What is the first session of therapy like? What was it like for you?
It's like a first date. It is. It's that awkward, hi, my name is, what are you interested in? The only difference is you don't necessarily have to ask it back.
Yeah.
It's kind of one-sided. They're trying to get to know you. My very first therapy session back when I was like 16, she was such a sweet little white lady. She just wasn't really for me. And it literally was an interview where she drilled me with a whole bunch of questions. My two favorite therapists, the one that I have now and the one prior to her, Ro. Ro flat out looked at me and she was just like, you look like you're in pain. And I was just like, yeah, that's because I am. And she was just like, the first question was, what's the color of your pain?
Wow.
And we got into a discussion about color therapy. And visualizing, what it is that we're feeling in a way to kind of heal. So her first approach in my first session was to get me to calm down enough so that we could actually have a conversation. So within like
That's so cool.
what's the color of your pain?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, she's like, what's the color of your pain and where do you see it concentrated? And I was like, it's like a forest green and it's in my chest. And she used that throughout all of our sessions, especially when we're doing hypnosis. She'll have me visualize that dark green smoke concentrated wherever I was feeling it. And she would guide me in releasing it. And you would see the dark green smoke just like disappear.
Wow.
And it's so freeing.
I'm low-key jealous. Because my first therapy experience was just like, I sat there and cried. Like, I just fucking cried. And like, I remember telling like my mom, who I said supported me totally in this therapy experience, and telling like maybe two of my best friends knew. They were like, so how was therapy? And I'm like, oh, it was cool. Like, I fucking lied. Like, I just sat there. Mostly because I was so scared and I was so ashamed that I was even in therapy to begin with. It took me a while to get over like the whole like stigma thing and like the fact that like, oh my God, something's fucking wrong with me. I still feel like that sometimes today, which is crazy because I am doing all this work. And it's funny, Mom, I'm not bashing you, but I am gonna say this. One time we had a fight so bad that because I was anxious and because I was depressed, that my mom was like, how can you say the things that you say? How can you write the things that you write when you feel this way?
I'm writing a post about this right now.
This is during one of the times where like, my parents really didn't understand completely how I felt. I don't expect anyone to, and I don't wish anyone, to feel what I felt or what I still feel. But those things that I'm sure a lot of people hear, they made me feel shitty about myself. It was just kind of like, something's wrong with me. This is why I'm here, because something's wrong with me. And it took me a while, even after I left, to realize I wasn't in therapy because something was wrong with me. I was in therapy because I wanted to help myself.
Exactly.
So if you feel like that today, or if you feel like that's the reason why you're ashamed and you won't make that call or you won't Google, um, and you're looking for comfort, and I feel like that's the reason why a lot of people message me first, um, is because they're looking for the comfort behind the question. Like, shit, do I really need therapy? Or where can I find this resource? Versus just coldly going online and doing the research for yourself. You have to take that brave jump. You have to do it for yourself.
You do.
That is an act of self-love. I would be happy if one of you guys here today, um, for my self-love challenge, because Yetti also has one, wrote, "Today I love myself because I made the decision to research about therapy." Don't even make the appointment today. Just do your own research.
Right. Baby steps.
Exactly. You have to be gentle with yourself. You have to take the baby steps. You're never gonna make a big jump. I don't make big jumps.
No,
It's insanity.
it's not good for my anxiety for me to make big jumps. Okay? That's not how my mind works.
Absolutely not. Let me see if anybody's asking anything else.
How do you end your relationship with your therapist?
Question.
So the one that was in Queens that I talked about before, I did what we're not supposed to do in relationships, and I ghosted her.
I ghosted mine too. I ghosted mine too. Because I
I
felt
just
like
disappeared.
I'm here to have you help me deal with these broken relationships, both with myself and with other people. And
Hmm.
I think something happened, besides the fact that I was focused on, the fact that we didn't have that like close relationship, that like, oh my God, I'm gonna call my therapist. And like, the fact that I was broke, and she did or said something that made me feel like I was just a customer to her versus like her. Um, and I ended up ghosting her. So, which was like counterproductive to all of my healing, but I had to forgive myself for that because I was really stupid.
Just had to forgive myself. No, but like sometimes, honestly, I was having such anxiety trying to explain to her that you don't work for me. It was
Mm.
just so much easier for me to just not say anything and move on.
Mm. Yeah,
Because like, you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. You want to tell her about herself, like, hey, whatever your practice does not work for me. But in our reality, you're paying for a service. You're paying to receive some type of peace of mind.
right,
You can tell them when they're doing something that doesn't work for you. You have the right to tell them.
right, and
And it
I'm so
wasn't
good at that.
until my previous therapist, we went through a phase, and I was just like, this isn't working for me. I feel like you need to hold me accountable more. And she flat out said, I can do that. She's like, but I'm not here to handhold you. I'm here to help you get on your own feet to do it
Right,
for yourself too. She's like, so we can start off that way, but I need for you to do the legwork. You need to motivate yourself. Hold your own hand.
right. That's great.
So,
I'm glad you said that therapy is a service. Um, think about therapy. I don't know. This is my best advice, and this is me talking to myself. A lot of the times that I talk to you guys, I talk to myself. Now that I've made the decision to go to therapy again, um, think of your therapist as any other service. Would you stay with your nail lady if she was doing some whack ass nails on you?
you
No.
sure would not.
Would you stay with your stylist if she was doing some whack ass hairstyles on you, or blowing you out halfway where you stay with the little frizzy situation? No. So shop around. Yes, it's difficult because you're dealing with your emotions and not like your nails or your hair or your eyelashes or your microblading or whatever the hell. But you are paying for something. You are literally saving your life. You're investing in your life. So definitely shop around. That's definitely advice that I'm going to take with myself now that I'm embarking on this new journey and I am on this journey with you guys. I'm going to find a new therapist, and I'm thinking about blogging this whole situation because
I am going to hold you to it.
I get it. I get it. I get it. And I wish we could Google Latina therapist who is a first time mom who suffered from separation anxiety and had to go back to work when she doesn't give a shit about her job anymore. I wish. But we can't do that. So I'm gonna have to shop around, and I'm gonna have to like probably text Yetti and be like, yo, this shit is whack. I can't believe I'm going through this again. But it is what it is. So just know that, you know, we are here with you. But it's definitely one of the most annoying things you have to do when it comes to healing. I was like, I wish I could recommend everybody mine because she's so good. Word.
Drop her name. Drop her name. And like I said, my old therapist in New York, she is amazing. I think she's on every single insurance board too. Now she is. I don't know how she managed to do it, but her name is Ro Piccoli. She's in Midtown East. And she's absolutely amazing. Someone asked, do you have to go to a professional for self-hypnosis? No, you don't. You can walk yourself through it. They have things you can listen to via YouTube that will lead you through it. Honestly, it feels like a really deep meditation. I, for one, can't meditate. I can't like sit in silence and like stop my thoughts. That doesn't exist for me. But I do kind of like a guided meditation, which is similar to self hypnosis, and that works. You do kind of go into a trance if it's done correctly. So you don't need a professional to do that. I would advise like trying experiencing it with a professional so you know what it feels like, so you know when you're in the right stage. But yeah.
Yeah. Now that you're touching on hypnosis and stuff, there are things that I do, which I'm also going to touch on my video, but I can't wait to talk about them, so I'm going to talk about them here. There's things that I do. I'm a very, like, if I can do it naturally, I'm going to do it naturally type of person. Mm-hmm. So I've done tons of research, and there are things that I've been doing for years that I continue to do. Not because they're not helping me, but because my anxiety persists, and it is my neighbor, unfortunately. My favorite thing that I do, and that I've taken up again, that I actually do with my daughter when she starts to wall out, is listen to binaural beats and listen to frequencies. Yep. This has been so major for me, and I don't think many people know about this. When I started dating Huey, we spoke about this, and it was just like, I love him. He knows it. And if you research binaural beats and you research there's frequencies, or different frequencies for everything. There's frequencies. You should listen to them. I should mention this in headphones. Yep. There's frequencies that you listen to, and binaural beats are another name for frequencies and sounds that you listen to that the waves affect your brain. So there are different ones for everything. Recently, I've been listening to the same one on the train every single day because I love my job, but going to work gives me such anxiety still. Half because I have to leave my daughter, half because my brain is preoccupied with other things. So I've been listening to, and I will screenshot it and put it in my stories and tease everybody else who didn't listen to this live and tell them that they have to figure it out watching this live or watching the video. But the one that I've been listening to lately is for meditation and relaxation. And I kid you not, I listen to it my whole way in. I take the A train from last stop all the way to 34th Street. And by the time I get there, I'm just like, ugh. Anybody can like step to me at work in the morning and I'll be like, what's up, y'all? Like before the coffee, before the breakfast, and I'll be chill. I've also done this with my daughter, and I actually have a video of her. The first time that I played this for her, she was wilding and she was just crying, and she's not a crier. She's like, I'm not kidding. I'm not saying this because I'm biased, but my daughter's perfect. And I played this for her really loud. You're supposed to listen to it in headphones, but I played it on our speakers. My apartment's like surround sound because my husband works at AV and we're like nerds. So like whatever you're listening to in the living room, you can hear in the bathroom. So I played it really loud and just like watched her reaction, and she was just like calm, instantly calm. Um, I'll add that video to to my video because it's just so interesting to see. Like I know how it works on me, but to see how it works on a baby, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So level frequencies, yes. You can listen to it anywhere. Google it. YouTube has so many. YouTube actually has videos that are like an hour long, and you can just like take naps with it, which we used to do while I was in maternity leave. Um, you can listen to it on your commute. It's just so calming and healing. Um, there are frequencies for everything. There's frequencies for anxiety. There's frequencies for depression. There's frequencies for creativity to
Yep.
promote creativity. Do you listen to any special frequencies, babe? We actually, on days that we're all restless, we're all actually touch a little bit on spirituality, very sensitive to moon activity. So when the moon is full or new, we're all restless, be Huey and Ava, and we leave our phones on with like one of the frequencies, and we all like sleep like little bears. Um, so yeah, definitely do your research on that. That has been major for me. And the
No,
first time I read about it, I was just like, hey, it's worth a try. So I tried it. That's been a really, really big deal.
I
Um,
completely forgot about that. I did used to listen to it. My aunt actually got me onto that back in like 2013, 2014, when it wasn't on YouTube and you would have to find it either on like Amazon or your iTunes. Yep.
Matter yeah, there's so many on YouTube now. It's insane. So I just like save them to my playlist and just like bring them up when I
Yep.
need them. But they are like amazing. They're literally amazing. Is there anything else that like people would deem as like weird that you do for your healing? That's the weirdest thing that I do because I like to play my music really loud. And when I sit on the train, people would just like sit next to me. I like to see their reactions to the music that I listen to. And they're always just like, "What the hell?" Um,
No,
people
I do
don't know
too.
me. I also listen to like I don't listen to heavy metal, but the heavy metal version of electronic music is dubstep, and I love dubstep. Like, catch me at a show whipping my hair back and forth. So when I go on, uh, I'm either listening to frequencies or I'm listening to dubstep, which is like both extremes. Now y'all know who I am. But yeah, listening to
One of
things is
the
important.
one of the weird things that I do, and I have two aunts that are Buddhists,
Mm.
and so they chant.
Yeah.
And I tried the whole Buddhist thing. Didn't really work for me, but I kept the chanting
Mm-hmm.
because something about it makes you just zone out and you feel so calm. And the way that my aunt put it to me, she's also the aunt that got me into affirmations. My mom has a ton of sisters, so they're all her sisters. Every aunt that you hear me talk about, they are her sisters. There's a tribe of them. She got me into affirmations, um, and basically the way that Buddhists work, you kind of are your own God. So when you're chanting to have, it's kind of like have yourself figure out your issues. Like you chant to have the solution to your problem come to you. And it honestly really does happen that way. And so when I was in New York, I think it was my second apartment, I had like a little altar area and I would sit and I would chant for like 15 to 30 minutes in the morning, and I would feel so peaceful. And it's so weird when you give yourself that like time to be with yourself, you really
Mm-hmm.
can solve some of the issues that make you feel stuck.
Yeah. Because you have the answers in you, God.
Because you exactly, you do have the answers. And the thing is, I'm like, I was forced into a Catholic school, and I think being in a Catholic school, my friend Jenny is in the chat. We actually both went to Catholic school together. Um, I hated religion after being forced to take theology class. Like, I was so anti-religion, was not here for it. I wouldn't necessarily say I was atheist. I was agnostic. Like, you, I was questioning everything, and then especially after my sexual assault, it's like I felt like I was a good person. So why do these bad things happen to me? But like, as time has gone by, there's definitely, you going to bed? Oh, there's definitely a higher power out there, and whenever like I refer to God or the higher power, I'm talking about the universe, and I feel like the universe is that higher power, and half of that
Yes.
universe is me. Um, so I truly do believe the power is within you. It absolutely is. Like, you have a way to will things to you. There are some things that I guess do happen by chance, but there are other things that it's been mapped to your life, to your frequency, because it was meant for you. Um, so yeah, I definitely feel like the power is within you. And with the chanting I used to do, um, it made me feel like I was in control of my life. And it's very rare that a highly anxious person feels like they're in control of
No,
anything.
I feel you 1,000%. Which is why when I relaunched, I had to make the decision like, am I going to talk about the same shit I used to talk about on the blog, or am I going to talk about what's been a major part of my life thus far? Am I going to talk about and be open with the fact that I'm a mad mixy when it comes to spirituality? And I was also in Catholic school. I wouldn't say forced, it was just like a part of, my life. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Family is mostly Catholic Christian. We always went to church, and not every Sunday type of folks, but we went, and it was just a normal thing. But it wasn't until I went to college that I had to take theology, um, and learn about all these other religions that I was like, wow, okay, eightfold path, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow, this is cool, and oh, that's awesome. And we had to study all these other religions, and I was like, is it cool if I like do that, but I also do this? And I always
Mm-hmm.
feel guilty for it. Like, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with this. And I know that there are people that follow me that always ask me about, like, who are you talking to when you refer to God? So I love that you said, God is the universe, God is me, God is you, God is everything. Because that's exactly how I feel. And that's who I mean when I say, hi, God, when I get triple numbers, or hi, God, when I get a message through a song, or hi, God, when whatever, my daughter smiles at me, when something's
Right.
whatever. Um, so that has also been a big part of my healing, in allowing myself to be shameless in my spirituality. And if you look at my apartment, let me see. I hope it's not messy, but let me see if I can flip it around. I have Buddhas everywhere. I have a Buddha there. I have a Buddha there. If you look right behind that, I have like uh, an eye right there. That's holy water from Jerusalem. Like, this is not a
You.
joke, guys. This is my life. I've had to like allow myself to to do whatever it is that felt good to me. And sometimes I go to church. I went to Hillsong for a very long time. And sometimes I went to Catholic church and I took communion. And sometimes I did yoga and I like thought and talked to Buddha in my head. And that's just, what I needed at the time. You have to listen to yourself. If you're a devout Catholic, then do that. If you're a devout Buddhist, then do that. If
Right.
you're a devout atheist, then do that. But I hope you're at least believing in yourself. Um, I love that you touched on that, because I literally, like, you're saying all the things that I've been thinking about in the past week. Um, my brain's exploding. uh, yeah,
I'm like trying to keep up with some of the comments.
yeah.
Wow.
I'm
Well, this
so.
definitely went a lot better than I thought it was going
I
to.
hope.
Yeah, I was so nervous. You can ask my boyfriend. I was just like, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? I was talking to my best friend. I was just like, I'm a fraud.
No, you're not. This is always so cool. I think I did my first live while I was pregnant, right on this couch, just because I was bored and I wanted to talk to everybody who was asking me the same questions over and over about mental health. So I knew that the second time around, I wanted to do this with somebody who like felt me and like who I admired, who talks about the things that I talk about. So I hope all of you people follow Yetti because not only is she like she's like the black me, but go to her. It's like so pretty. Like I'm not good when it comes to like styling my grid, but her pictures are just so nice to look at. Like they're so peaceful.
This is only recent. This was
They're
boredom
just
on a weekend one
I
day.
I follow people and it sucks. I was talking about this today. I work in communications and I do this for a living, but for some reason I can't do it for myself. So I was talking about this with a friend who is a photographer, and we're talking about followers and whatever. And I'm like, yo, some people will only follow people who have like 10,000 followers or up because you know they have that many followers, they must be interesting. Or people will only follow people whose grids look pretty. Well, we're both below that, but we're both fucking interesting, as you can see. And her page is beautiful, and sometimes I just go just to look at it because it makes me feel calm. So I hope you guys. I also hope you guys follow each other. I was thinking about that today as I put up a picture of myself and like I introduced myself again for all these new followers that I have. I've recently been doing like it's not officially Follow Fridays, but I've been like putting on my friends and like shouting people out, and I shouted you out, I shouted my other friends out, and a lot of people have been like following them or whatever. But the reason that I post screenshots of what people say, like my followers that DM me or whatever, is so that you guys can be like, yes, I feel that, and you guys follow each other also. You don't have to follow bloggers per se. Follow people that you resonate with. Follow people that make you feel good. That's so important. I don't know if you bring this up with Certified 10 now that you're talking about mental health in the media, but it's so important to have people on your feed that feed you.
Agreed. I call it the
Because
Me
it's
Too factor.
yes, it's so big now that like, and it happens to me every day. Now that I'm dealing with like postpartum weight and everything, you compare yourself so much like all day long. Um, so I hope you guys like look at the comments and be like, oh, what she said was popping. Let me go to her page. That's cute kids. Let me follow her. Let me give her a double tap. So I hope you guys follow each other, and that way when we have these events, um, and and we have these lives and these things, you guys can be like, hey girl, and you guys already know each other. That's like the best
Agreed.
feeling.
Oh, it is. You've created a little community here. Look at you. I'm so
Yeah,
proud of you. Boo.
hard work, man. It's hard work. Thank God for having a baby and having 3 months off. You're not really off, but there's a lot you can do while you're breastfeeding.
I'm not gonna lie, when you went back and I was just like, she's not gonna be able to get the story during the day.
Well, that's so much, and I debate like my company grew a lot while I was out.
Mhm.
We went from like one something to like almost 200 people. So I'm just like, damn, I can't even go in like in the small conference room and like record a video real quick. It's like somebody's gonna catch me in here. It's funny you say that. I'm trying my best. I think I'm doing an okay job.
No, you
Um,
are.
the one of the videos that I put up to promo this whole month's campaign, the audio I recorded in the bathroom of my job, and somebody walked in like while I was recording. I was just like, like, I'm good. Don't worry. Like I'm good. Like I feel like I'm kind of like living this like double life. Uh, so it's
I
just so
it's so funny you say that. The post I'm trying to put together and put out either tomorrow or Friday talks about that because I feel like there's, Yeti in real life and there's Yeti, mental health advocate. And it's like trying to marry the two. You feel like you're living multiple lives. And when people come across like my Instagram or my blog, they're just like, this is
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Are there any more questions in here? I love the love. I love you guys so much. Seriously, I wish I could just put you guys all in a room weekly and just we could just like talk about things. I was in Catholic school too. Duality is so important. Yes. I don't even feel like it's like duality. It's just like multi-ality.
Right. It really is. It's pieces of everything. I take what works, honestly.
It's so important. I mean, I'm a mixy person. I've always been mixy. When it comes to friends, I'm very mixy. When it comes to anything, I'm very fucking mixy. So when it comes to my spiritual, I had to allow myself to just be me, and I am just a mixy person. Uh, Thank you for this. You're welcome, guys. Let us know if you would like us to come on here together again. Let Yetti know if you want her to put her girls on and do this. I want her to do this more because she's so good at this. She's good. She's good. She's good. She's good. And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I definitely have friends I would love to do lives with. Yes, give me all the hearts. I see all the hearts. I unfollowed so many people when I realized certain things triggered me. Yes, do not be afraid of the unfollow button.
No, you have the right to protect your peace and to protect your space. So
Yeah. My mom said disassociate yourself from people who take your happiness and your spirit. Absolutely. Surround yourself with people who are positive. Can you tell she's my mom?
yeah.
People who are positive and have something good to offer you. Absolutely. Yeah, guys, this is like really important. Really, really, really important. Proud of you both.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Don't take it personal when you. Oh, they sure do.
Oh, of course, of course. The weird thing about Facebook and the difference between Facebook and Instagram is on Facebook you can unfollow someone from your feed, but you can stay friends. And on Instagram,
Right.
I like that. So I'm just like,
And so they're going to know that you have unfollowed them.
who cares? Sorry. Like I always use the excuse that like, oh, this is my business page. Like I can't. But like some bullshit. Like nah, I'm not.
I am going to steal that. Thank you. I'm
Yeah,
definitely going to steal
business
that.
page. Link in my bio,
Yep.
and you can be on my feed. That's it. Look at the reminder I just got. Let me see if I can show you guys. Huey got me an Apple Watch for Christmas, and I have a app called Calm on my watch.
Oh, it's telling you to breathe.
It's telling me to breathe. I'm gonna do a video on that, like best mental health apps because there are many that have helped me. Many, 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 many that have helped me. Yeah, guys. How do you handle a friend turning their back on you because your hardships are too much for them to handle? Woo!
With their struggles.
Uh,
That
person,
that's happened to me twice, and it's rough.
it happened to me as well. And you personally, I don't know about you, but you go through all the stages of grief. Like you feel crazy because you feel like the way that you would feel as if you're breaking up with like a boyfriend or a girlfriend. But you have to purge that relationship. You, uh, life comes in cycles. There are seasons to your life, and some people are in those seasons, and some people aren't. It's very painful to deal with, but they're not there for your greater good. Then fuck them. Quite frankly.
Like they did you a favor.
Yeah.
They did.
Right.
And you deserve more than someone's gonna turn their back on you. It's one thing I really appreciate with majority of my friends. We're all going through shit. And even like the friends that I've made via the internet, like we're all going through shit. But I could show up in your text message and they will support. And that's just how it's supposed to be. So
Yep. Thank you guys for joining. I know that we're like dwindling and we have like 24 people left. You guys are the greatest of all time. Thank you for and for everybody else who watches this after this is posted, if you have any questions, my email's in my bio. Yetti's link is in her bio. Definitely follow us. Yeah, thank you guys for watching.
thank you. Bye. Mwah. I'll talk to you soon, Ma.
Yes, bye, my love.
All right, bye.